an actor in Supernatural, Jared Padalecki, who has Polish ancestry. I do believe this person is FTM, but this may be difficult for some people to see because of the extent of the hormonal changes. The power of hormones is incredible. It doesn't change the core skeletal structure relating to the ability to bear children or not. That never changes. That's coded for in DNA. But the rest is possible to change through all kinds of hormonal treatments. This is Padalecki as a child, and as a young, what looks like a girl to me. Notably, I sense that kind of lost, sad FTM look in the eyes here. This is such a female face. Now, a lot of people from Poland and from Russia, the females will have really strong facial structures, as do the males in the area. The males have more pronounced facial structures than the females do, which is the case in every given population. And when people have similar genetic heritage, males will always have more pronounced features than females. That's just biology. So if you take a female from a population where they have females with, tall height, broad skeletal structures, strong facial structures, and then you put them on testosterone from a young age and put them on probably human growth hormone. Human growth hormone, when taken over years while someone is maturing, can give someone an increase in maximum height. I believe it is up to 6 or 7 inches is the maximum increase. So if you have a tall girl in the first place, and I have known biological females who are 6 feet tall, if you have a girl who's even shorter than 6 feet tall, you can still get a very tall woman like Jared Padalecki in the end. The thing is, you have to look at the skeletal structure of the person, and what we've got here is a female spinal arch. This isn't just muscles, because if it was, you wouldn't also see the curve below that point. It's a high point where the female waist is, we have the curve outward to a very kind of high-looking female posterior, rather short torso. The male would typically have a longer torso. Often with the FTM, you can sense a lot about their biological gender before the testosterone has worked on them for a lot of years. Testosterone is very powerful. They have a widow's peak, they have a rather female-looking shape to the eyes, and shape is really dependent just on individual and genetics, but often I do see certain eye shapes more commonly on females. Short gap between the nose and the mouth, not a really wide mouth, pointed chin. The jaw seems to kind of curve downward rather than going back farther and being squarer, which you would typically see on a male. This could easily be a Polish woman. They do have quite a brow ridge. Again, testosterone can develop these things. There are also brow ridge implants, but when you have someone from a genetic heritage where even the females have a bit of a brow ridge, then you put them on testosterone, it will increase. Again, the shape of the jaw looks rather female here. Pretty female looking ear size. Not a whole lot going on in the trachea. Again, not a whole lot going on in the trachea. Very soft feeling, kind of dewy looking skin as well. Much more female looking. Does have a long forehead. Does have a pretty strong facial structure, but at the same time, looks soft. Again, that feeling. This feels so feminine. The face is masculinized. This is what testosterone does. Again, not much development in the trachea. If you have such a tall, muscular guy, you would expect to see more going on in there. Again, there's that soft curve around the jaw. You can tell there's a lot of subcutaneous fat here. Very female looking. Again, very female looking. Even though the person has been altered through testosterone at this point as well. I could see this just as a female looking like this. I just think maybe she was a little masculine, a bit of a tomboy. Again, this energy, this is female energy, absolutely. Soft curves to the jaw, feminine looking lips, feminine looking eyes, nothing going on in the neck really. Such a gentle look in the eyes, such a female look. There's nothing jutting, no gauntness, very female looking facial structure, even though it's a rather strong one. Very female looking. You can see a bit more going on in the Adam's apple here, because the neck is being leaned backwards, so the trachea is being kind of pushed outward. It looks already very muscular. See, what's strange here is that it looks like we've got a smaller size up here in the shoulders, then the body seems to just expand out continually past that point. Looks like the mass is all down here, in the lower body, which is what you find on a female. You would find mass in the upper body on a male. The shoulders should be wider than the hips, but instead, looks like they're equal. Very strange, isn't it? Skull is large. Again, I've pointed out in the past, a lot of times FTMs seem to have large skulls, and there are studies on autistic males typically having larger skulls, and I've heard from some people that some boys born via in vitro fertilization had larger than average heads. And it is possible that they use hormones in the womb to attempt to influence some of the traits they can influence later in life. I do believe there's limitations to what can be done in the womb. Again, just a very kind of mild energy, kind of gentle, inviting. If you think about it in terms of, does this energy draw you inward, or does it project outward? It draws inward. There's female energy, quite feminine looking wrists. The shoulders do look broad, but so do the hips. A lot of space down there. Looks like they have a female digit ratio, quite rare on males indeed. And this looks extremely unnatural. It's just very strange. First of all, this looks like the person is taking steroids. Second of all, the obliques look extremely strange. They bulge out so far to the sides because of wide female hips. The Adonis belt looks strange. Everything about this shape looks very strange. Pectorals look really strange too. Rounded and strangely low. And as I've talked about many times before, FTMs build up the deltoids because it increases the apparent width of the shoulders. Now, there are some females who have slightly wider shoulders than hips. This is typically seen in places in Northern Europe, and with Polish ancestry, this person easily could have that kind of body type. But if you look at where the actual joints in the shoulders are, compare them down to where we've got the joints in the hips, it is equal. Got a female hip to shoulder ratio here, wearing the trousers pretty low. Again, really weird looking Adonis belt and obliques. There's something very strange looking about this whole figure. Pectorals, they just look so round and pillowy somehow. Males tend to have much squarer, kind of more powerful looking muscles. This looks like the person seems extremely soft still. Very soft looking. Very strange. Also, it does look like there may be some discoloration of the hands. This is a known effect of taking testosterone. Yes, it does look like there's discoloration of the hands, indeed. And again, these hips are really strangely wide. The torso's been filled in. This happens when people take testosterone and block estrogen. Even happens on people who are transitioned post-pubescently, but this person clearly was intended to be raised as a male from birth, even if they were, in fact, an XX female. The musculature, the entire shape of the person just looks very off. There's something very wrong about this body. You can see that there's a lot of curving to the abdomen here, very strange. And the person, yes, they're huge. They're a huge person. Just based on the size, one would want to say that they wouldn't be female, but with knowledge of human growth hormone and testosterone and other steroids, this is actually possible. This is possible. Chest looks very strange here. Again, something very odd about this whole look. The neck seems pretty short. I've said before, a lot of times women from Northern Europe will have a kind of more square shoulder shape across. This person seems to. They've definitely built up the deltoids. You can always tell there's this definitive bulge to increase the apparent width of the shoulders. Again, the torso's been quite filled in, but we can still sense there's a point where it kind of pulls inward above the navel, and then it continually goes out past that point. Now, since the arm isn't being pulled back or anything, muscles wouldn't be sticking out. This is just the shape of the skeletal structure underneath. But notably, a distinct curve to the lower abdomen. That's a female pelvic tilt right there. Clear curve to the hips. The whole body just, it looks very awkward, very wrong. Too much curve in the body. Curves in here, curves that way. A lot of width in these hips. Taking testosterone will develop facial hair, will develop body hair. Can help with development of the brow ridges, can help with development of other facial bones, elongate the face, grow the nose, grow the Adam's apple. Testosterone can do many things. It can't stop the female pelvic tilt and spine from developing. Again, female pelvic tilt right here. Because of the built-up back muscles, also we don't see the curve come in as high as we would on a female who's not filling in her body with by taking testosterone and blocking estrogen. It's just a very awkward kind of feeling to what's going on down here in the hips and everything. Like they're kind of swaying while walking. Strange. Again, very strange looking body overall. The pelvis does look pretty wide. Again, this looks more like a female where the shoulders may be slightly wider than the hips. This is possible, just to a minute degree, not extreme. The person has a distinct pelvic tilt. This is not possible on a male. Look how short the torso looks, even though the person's really tall. Such a lot of strange round mass at the front of the body. This one's not their body, this is a photo edit. The hips are so high and so wide here. This is very strange. Trousers being worn low makes it seem like the torso is longer than it is, but actually they're worn extremely low on this person. And again, up here, we can sense that high point of the waist. Very strange looking musculature here. Just seems to be seeping down so low. Again, at the waist point, after that point we have expanding outward, very odd looking, super defined Adonis belt. Looks rather fake. Same here. Weird appearance. When people block estrogen, then the fat isn't directed to the hips anymore, to the hips and thighs and posterior. It's directed to the waist, so it fills in the waist. When they build up the deltoids and the pectorals, then it makes them seem like they're top heavy. But still, we have such a width in these hips and this pelvis. Look, female spinal arch. This is a woman. This is a transgendered woman. Curves in at a high point, curves back outward. You can see where it comes in. Curvy abdomen. Pelvic tilt visible from all directions. Very strange looking pectorals. What's going on right here? Why is it so strangely full right there? That looks very unnatural. Hips are clearly wide. We can sense where the hips are, and they are equal to where the actual joints of the shoulders are. Again, you can sense it through that kind of awkward FTM tilt. You can sense it through clothing. What's their body doing? Why is the posterior sticking out so much? Because of this pelvic tilt. Again, look at how long the legs are. They seem to be very long. The torso is quite short. They put a whole bunch of inflated muscle up here. The top of the body just ballooned. But still, look how wide the hips are. Look how wide they are compared to the actual joints in the shoulders. This is clearly someone on steroids. It's not natural. Again, discolored hands. And the quality of the legs, it's clear that this person's on steroids. But we do have what looks like the female Q angle. Below the crotch is where the Q angle begins, it curves inward. The legs are spaced farther apart, so we may not be able to assess it as well. This is Andreas Krieger. And previously, Andreas Krieger was Heidi Krieger, an athlete who competed in the Olympics. As a biological female, clearly biological female, the width of the hips attests to that fact. The shape of the face as well. Sometimes females, especially from some places in Northern Europe, Germany, Scandinavia, sometimes Russia, they'll have strong facial structures, but it's obvious that they're female. For instance, this person does not have a pronounced brow ridge, there's softness in the face, very typical of a female. There's not much of a gap between the nose and the mouth here. It's clearly a biological female, and after taking testosterone, this is the effect. Testosterone can grow facial hair, it typically grows the nose, can elongate the lower part of the face, sometimes helps growing brow ridges and strengthening facial bones. But generally, if done after puberty, it's not as effective as when it's done from a young age while also on female hormone blockers. Krieger was doped with steroids, a lot of steroids, and had to retire in part due to severe pain from lifting massive amounts of weight while on steroids. It's dangerous to lift massive amounts of weight as a male or a female, but it's more dangerous as a female because our bodies are not designed for it. Male bodies are designed for this kind of brute strength and athleticism much more than females are. For a female, the body is designed for pregnancy. That's the primary function that the spine and the hips and everything are designed for. For males, it's more athleticism. And this poor person, unfortunately, has a lot of pain because of what was done to them. From the age of 18, Krieger began developing male characteristics. Years of doping left the person with many masculine traits. Eventually underwent reassignment surgery, felt out of place and longed in some vague way to be a boy, felt that receiving hormones without consent was a deprivation of fundamental rights, which is absolutely true. It's horrifying that this was done to someone just for the sake of competition for sports. But equally, this kind of thing happens in generational satanic cults for religious reasons. The kinds of reasons that people can use to justify things they do are innumerable. See, as a female, this is clearly a female, there's a strength of the facial structure, the eye shape looks more female, the spacing of the features is all more female. And after testosterone, I don't think many people would, look twice. They probably wouldn't doubt that this person is the gender they present as. I don't heavily analyze this person because this person is not one of the celebrities in the generational androgyny cults. This is just a person who had a very complicated experience. But if you notice, again, the female digit ratio, much more common on females, possible on males, but very uncommon on males. Check out the level of musculature and fat. This is clearly a female subcutaneous fat distribution because this person wasn't receiving female sex hormone blockers. They were just receiving steroids, and also their body was naturally producing these hormones. If you look at the person, all the mass is down here. It's in the hips and the thighs. Because of the growth of the thigh muscles, it means they have to stand with the legs farther apart. So you can't measure the Q angle as accurately because of how much the thigh muscles have grown there. But see the subcutaneous fat levels, they're clearly female. There's gradual curve everywhere. There's nothing bony and jutting because this is a female. Very tall, muscular female, but biologically that is the identity. See how much smaller the ribcage is, the waist is high, the legs are longer proportionally compared to the torso. The arm length looks more female. Sometimes, especially Germans, may have longer arms, females as well as males. The arm length really varies depending on the population. I think most people would probably find this quite possible as a male. Most people probably wouldn't doubt. Testosterone use can cause male pattern baldness. Again, it masculinizes facial traits, bodily traits, changes fat distribution. And the thing is, this is a person who was not put on hormone blockers. I just want to point out, even someone who was not put on hormone blockers while they were going through natural puberty for their biological sex, they can appear like this as an end result. This person clearly has a high spinal arch, begins at a high point and curves out again after that point. See this? The curve to the front as well, there's a pelvic tilt. But this is what a biological female looks like on a lot of steroids. But if you also blocked female natural puberty of the person's biological sex, then you can achieve a lot in making a person look like the opposite gender. But I just want to say, even a biological female without female hormones being blocked can look much more masculine because of what the steroids are doing to them. An adult FTM who went through natural female puberty, after 2 years on testosterone, the changes are astounding. So if you think about that, and then you think about putting a young girl on hormone blockers before she begins female puberty, and if you give her growth hormones, which can increase the maximum height of a person by several inches, if given over a number of years, if you think about that, if you block the female hormones, you give them growth hormones, you give them steroids, and then you also can potentially have a lot of cosmetic procedures, liposculpture, chin implants, jaw implants, brow implants, all of these things. There are many things that can be done that are more effective in passing someone of a certain biological sex as the opposite, especially when they've been transgendered from a young age, from before puberty. But even someone who was post-pubescently transgendered, look at the effect of the hormones. Look at how different this person looks. Again, energy of the person comes off very female. They have a large skull, they have a large body. This is the power of hormones. Again, looks like some discoloration of the hands. Very gentle kind of female feeling energy when with child. Again, even though the facial structure is strong and the longer that this person lives, the more they're on testosterone, the more it develops, still the place where the jaw curves is more female, it's farther forward, it's not square, still that kind of point to the chin. This is a strong female facial structure put on testosterone. Some more development in the neck as they got older. Look how strange and awkward the body looks. The composition of the body's all wrong. It's not correct for a male. Shoulder pads will increase the apparent width of the shoulders. Turning to this angle will make the hips look less wide. When this person's in clothing, they're pretty deceptive because of the changes that hormones can bring upon the body. But you can still sense that there's just too much curve on the hips, the high point of the waist, and the constant curve can make it out at the sides here too. All of these people have really wide pelvises. All of these people have rather soft faces. All of these people don't have much going on in the necks. And distinctly all of them have a very gentle appearance in the eyes. Very feminine feeling in the eyes. That's female energy. They all look like they have ancestry from places where females can have greater height, stronger facial structures, just be kind of broader overall. Poland, Russia, and this person does look like they have some German ancestry too. These are the bloodlines that they choose a lot of FTMs from, because they're more believable that way. Again, that female energy, even when we've got all of this stuff going on to the face through testosterone, the brow ridge, everything. Still not much in the neck, yet this one seems to have more of an Adam's apple. I believe this is his wife who he met on the show. The high point of the waist, the curvy hips. There's just something very strange going on here. This person's body does seem to be a lot more kind of rectangular coming down too. There's that awkward tilt to the body. High point of the waist, comes outward. Torso's really short. Someone who's this tall, a male would have a longer torso as well, but this person seems to be all legs. Very female. This one seems to not have much of a spinal arch, just comes down pretty straight. Here we can see that the back comes down straight right until right above the posterior. Looks very masculine. It's a smaller person. They often pick females from bloodlines with smaller males. People just don't understand how much testosterone can do. Again, discoloration of the hands. Again, short torso. Very strange body composition. Here, what's he doing with the knees? Angling them way out to the side, toes way out to the side. You can tell the waist is way up here, yet the trousers are worn quite low. Can follow right here, the curve of the thigh, even though the shorts are loose. And yeah, the steroids have done interesting things to the legs. Look at this, how small the pelvis of this person looks. Right here, compared to the width of their shoulders. They seem to have quite a lot of development in the trachea. Square, powerful jaw, and they seem to have more of a male Q angle. While the legs are just running straight forward, the knee pointing forward and everything, but on this one they have to turn them out to the side. FTMs do this to disguise their acute female Q angle. And when pulling on the shirt like that, we can follow the curve of the body. Obviously the arm's in the way, but judging on the pulling of the fabric, and right here, with the short torso and the curving body of a female. Again, person does have a large skull. They do have facial hair, they do have brow ridge, they do have a lot of these things. But this one is the one with the more focused energy compared to this one. Very soft look in the eyes. Really not much going on in the neck. This is a very strange feeling to it. It's a very strange feeling in the eyes here. And here, this looks rather like the lost dead FTM look. Very interesting. Not much going on in the neck. Again, believable facial hair. Pretty good, as far as FTMs go. Seems like the hairline may be receding a bit. This often happens when people take testosterone. And again, this is done in generational androgyny cults. This person would have been forced to be raised as the opposite gender from birth and upward. I will say that I distinctly feel like this one is female, even though it seems to be raised as a male. All of the children may be inverted because they do this for religious reasons. I can't tell for sure without doing a DNA test, obviously. In generational Luciferian androgynous cults, they are all taught that it is superior to have aspects of both genders. It gives one qualities of godhood because they believe in an androgynous god, a Baphomet. So they believe it is beneficial for their children. But this person could be a very good mother, and is merely doing what was done to them because they have Stockholm Syndrome. In order to cope with the profound abuse of being transgendered against their will, these people come to agree with that point of view. When they've lost everything they were, it's extremely easy to develop Stockholm syndrome. And then the cycle continues and becomes even more difficult to break when they do it to their own children, because if they could ever step back and realize that they'd done the same thing to their children that had been done to them, taken away their inherent right to be the gender that they were supposed to be originally, they would not be able to cope with that profound feeling of guilt and horror at what had been done to them and what they'd also done to someone else. So once they get into these cults and they cooperate with it every step of the way, they become trapped. I can't judge what these people are like morally. All I can do is judge their skeletal structure, and when there are photos of them showing them as children, showing them as supposedly the gender they present as, and yet they have a female skeletal structure, it's obvious that they must be from a generational satanic androgyny cult. So what we're here to do is not to cast judgment on people, but to make ourselves and others aware of who these people really are, to help ourselves be aware of the agenda, the changes it is bringing upon our society, upon individuals, because of this deception. Again, the very awkward looking body, the trousers are worn low, it's just a very strange look to this body, and if you watch this person in motion, watch them walking and things, you'll sense even more how strange the body is. And as always, I encourage people to do their own research and look up these people and watch them in motion, look at lots of photos of them, compare and see what you think, see what you see. Make your own judgments. Don't blindly trust anyone, because some people are out to actively deceive and some people just may be very confused. So anyway, you've just gotta build the knowledge of skeletal anatomy. This person is knock-kneed as well. Knock-knees are much more common on females. It is possible for males to be knock-kneed, but it's much more common on females because of the shape of the pelvis and the natural female acute Q angle. The difference between males and females is typically females will have a higher angle at which the knock-knees turn outward, and this looks very much like pregnant Katherine Heigl, where her knee begins, knocks outward. Looks very much like it's the same sort of degree and angle. These people actually have quite a similar body type. This is a body type that can be seen in Germany, Poland, places in Northern Europe or Eastern Europe. This is not the body type that we often see on people in the British Isles or in Canada, America, but this is a female body type. This person does have a female Q angle. We can see the legs curve inward, pelvis is wide, even though we've got these shoulder pads and these built up deltoids and built up pectorals. This person is clearly female. They've got the female gait, where the feet step one in the front of the other rather than side by side as they would with a male. The toes outward, the knees outward. FTMs usually do this to try and disguise the Q angle, but this person isn't doing a great job of it. And again, it's impossible for a male to have this kind of pelvic tilt and spinal arch. This is a female skeletal structure. Short torso, the huge pillowy sort of pectorals, strange looking musculature, strange body conformation, and yes, great height and many masculine traits can be caused through taking human growth hormone and through taking testosterone and other steroids, but they can't disguise that essential skeletal structure, and this body is clearly a female body. So, despite being tricky in some ways, he possibly will give some people some difficulty. This person has an undeniable female skeletal structure, designed to allow them to bear children, which makes them an XX female, transgendered from early childhood, and that's that.